Hi everyone, this is Heidrun from Navis at Intergeo 2023, and I have the pleasure to talk to Marco today, who is with Cytec Services in the Netherlands. Hi Marco.
Hi, hello, thank you.
Marco, would you like to introduce yourself quickly?
Yes, so my name is Marco Jasper and I live in the Netherlands. I have been working for Cytec since June last year, and I work as a 3D scanning engineer, so I do all 3D scanning for Cytec, and that's basically it.
Thank you, Marco. So I heard that you don't have a VLX, but you are using Navis Ivion Core, correct?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So we don't have VLX yet. I'm still very interested. It looks amazing. But we were actually looking for a cloud application to still be able to process, or not process, but upload our data so that people could easily just log in, see what the data was like, do some simple measurements, and instead of having to transfer the entire data set on a hard drive, which can sometimes be a hassle. So that was our plan, and it actually works very well.
That's great to hear. And actually, in general, it is quite unusual for us to have customers that don't have a VLX but have Ivion Core. We have a few, but not that many. And I know that you have a Leica RTC 360 that you actually scan with, but then you upload the data into Ivion. So can you explain a bit why you took that decision, how you did it before, and why you took that decision to take Navis Ivion Core?
Well, like I said, before we literally just we processed the data, we exported the data, and then depending on how big the data set actually was, we had to transfer it using OneDrive, which takes a while, or we actually had to put it on a hard drive and then physically bring it to the client or send it, and so they could use it. But the problem is data gets lost. People use it for whatever they need to use it for, then it gets put away in a drawer or something, and after 2 years they want to see the data again and they can't find it. So for us, that was a realization that there should be another way. So I started looking on the internet about, what is the solution, what can we do? And actually Navis Ivion was actually one of the first things that came up. And so I started looking into it and talking to some of Pete and Carl about what are the options, can we actually use it, or is it just specifically used for the VLX? And it turned out that wasn't really the case, so we could also use it. And now we actually use the data to show it online in the cloud, and our customers can look through the data, fly through the plans, and use point of interest, measurements, and everything. So it works great, yes.
That's great to hear. So actually what you're doing right now, you capture the data with the Leica RTC 360. You then work on the data with the Leica tools,
yes,
right?
Yes, I still use the Leica software, so it just works the best. That's what it's made for. So I put everything in the Leica software, and when I'm done, I export it as an E57, and I put it in Ivion. I just upload it, and it's immediately there. So.
And as you just said, you also give access to your customers so that they can actually access the data. Can you just tell us a bit more, what kind of customer would that typically be?
These are the customers usually from the production industry. We're looking at obviously at buildings as well, but for now it's usually production. And they use it for turnaround, so where they actually plan to make changes into the factory, or maintenance, or just chemical engineering. Anyone who actually has to go into the plant to check something, they can now do it from their computer if it saves some time, or maybe if they're working from home. It might just save a lot of time if you're actually thinking about a year, for example. So that's the reason. Yeah.
So you just mentioned turnaround teams, maintenance teams, chemical engineers. So before you had that setup with Ivion Core, how would they actually, you can just take some examples, how would they actually work? And what's the improvement now with Ivion Core in place?
The most important thing is that if you actually want to use 3D scan data on a laptop or a computer, it is very, very heavy. So you need a specific computer, you need a specific license in an Autodesk or a Navisworks Revit, anything, and it will just not run on a regular laptop. So that was very difficult for people who just wanted to see the data set. They couldn't, because they had no license, they had no hardware, and there was just no way for them. So they had to go and ask colleagues, like, can you put this data in Autodesk, or so they could look on that person's computer for a little while, but it's just that's not the way you want it to be.
So what they actually do now, for example, if they have any plans on changing the plant, on changing machines or whatever, they could already look at it before, do the measurements, and do all of that digitally instead of traveling there, for example.
Exactly. Well, so obviously they still have to go into the plant at some point. But maybe not at first. Maybe they can make a broad schedule about what they need to do just behind their computers, just in a meeting, putting it on a big screen and showing it to everybody. And then they can figure out, all right, we have to do this and we obviously still have to measure it exactly, because there's still a little bit of a difference sometimes. But I think it will save a lot of time initially. And also for new people who haven't been in the factory yet or in the plant yet, or for maybe in the future VR, that kind of stuff. So you can actually go in there digitally and look through it. Yeah.
That's really great to hear, because that's actually why we designed and developed IVion Core. It's not supposed to just be a visualization tool, but actually a collaboration tool, right? Where teams can work on the same project together and you can actually share the data. So great example. What's the next step? So I guess that was a big change already for you, and that improved hopefully also your customers' experience. But what is next?
What is next is looking at more opportunities to improve that data, improve the workflow, obviously. A VLX, for example, that would be an interesting thing.
I agree.
But there are still hurdles that we need to overcome. Sometimes it's difficult with a VLX to go through a plant. Sometimes a little bit cramped spaces that you can't really get through. So these are things that we still have to figure out. And also, just keeping track of what IVion is being updated for, what the new features are, and also telling the people from Navis what we'd like to see in the future, and also some hidden features that are apparently already in for smart data, live data, in points of interest. That kind of thing is something that we really want to look into to improve it.
And we are always happy to get feedback from our customers on what features should be next. So great to get your input there. And I hope that we meet next year, do this interview again, and you have another VLX by then.
Yeah, that would be great. I'll see you next year.
Perfect. Thank you, Marco.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thanks, everyone. And see you soon.